Well, welcome to the Black Script. My name is Kevin Marable, and today we have an amazing talent with us. We have actor Abe Lopez.
What's
Abe, how are
going
you
on?
doing today, man?
I'm doing amazing, man. Thank you for having me, Kevin.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, there's a question that I like to start every interview with. It's a very
Okay,
simple question, but some might find it difficult to answer. Are you ready?
let's have it.
That question is, who is Abe Lopez?
Who is Abe Lopez? I've had that question asked before.
Okay.
Um, Abe Lopez is a local model, local Texas actor, um, author, entrepreneur, small business owner, um, who's just hungry.
Mhm. Okay. Awesome, man. Awesome. So yeah, you mentioned you're an author, you're an actor, you're an entrepreneur, and you're a model, local Texas model.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
which out of those came first?
I would have to say the author. Back in back in 2021,
Uh-huh.
Um, it wasn't even a planned step in my life. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. I wasn't trying to pursue it. Um, I just started writing a story, which wasn't even going to try to be a published novel or anything. My intention was to write it as a screenplay. I wanted to write a movie,
Uh-huh.
so I started writing this script, and I finished it and I showed it to my wife, and she was surprised. Like, she couldn't even understand, like, how did you even create something like this? So that's when I was like, you know what, I want to make this a movie. So we reached out to my aunt. She's an actress in LA.
Hmm.
She's been acting for over 20 years. She's now an executive producer.
Oh
And I
wow.
told her about it, and she was like, you know what, like, this story is unique. It's
Uh-huh.
beautiful. It's amazing. I want to recommend you to, instead of submitting it as a script, try to publish it as a novel, because
Mhm.
nowadays a lot of movies are based out of books. So
Right.
that's the route that I took. I went ahead and I published it as my first novel,
Hmm.
and I got it translated. I got it published as a Spanish version as well 2 years later.
Okay. That's
And right now, last year I was able to publish my first children's book based out of my twin daughters, and I got that one published at the same time, Spanish and English version. So I got 4 books, man.
that's dope, man. If you don't mind telling the audience what are the names of your books?
My first book was titled An Hero, and then in Spanish it's pretty much the same, An el Héroe. And
Hmm.
then my children's book was titled Twin Sisters and the Tooth Fairy, Jewel. So it's pretty much the same in Spanish. They're available. All 4 of them are available through Amazon.
Wow. Okay. So for those who are watching and listening, be sure to jump on Amazon, support Abe, in his author journey. I'm sure there's more
Absolutely, yeah.
books to come. I'm sure there's more coming. So okay, so outside of that, uh, you began your writing as an author, uh,
Yes.
but you wanted to write screenplays. Did you at any point continue on in your writing, um, as far as writing screenplays are concerned?
Uh, I would say 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I wrote my first, well, my second screenplay.
Mhm.
But this one, I wasn't intending to publish it as a book. I wanted it straight to be a film. And I showed it to my to my production agency, Kendra King,
Mhm.
and she went ahead and she submitted it to Maverick Production. So as we speak, they're actually reviewing it to see if they can actually help me out in making this script a movie.
Okay, dope, man. Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
It is, man. It is. It's something completely new,
Yeah.
but it's like I said, I'm hungry for all of this. I can never learn enough. I want to keep learning, not
Mhm.
only in the acting industry, behind the scenes, behind the cameras. If I could help out in the casting crew, if I could help out, being one of the producers, whatever it is, man. I'm like super. ecstatic. I'm super pumped for all of this. And
Yeah.
this one is the same way. Like I wrote this with the intention of being one of the characters as well. Not one of the main characters, but try to sneak my
Still-
way in it as well.
right. Still be a part of it, but yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, just being on set and being able to soak up all of that information, that knowledge, the know-how of what it's like to be a director, what it's like to be the AD, all of the people, all the crew, and just also to soak in all of the other talent, the other actors that you're working with, is definitely awesome to get that experience and be able to take that in and figure out what it is, which path you want to navigate um, in this industry.
Definitely. Definitely. Because I do notice a lot that a lot of directors they give a lot of pointers to us, the actors,
Hmm.
and a lot of times they're right. A lot of times they're not all that right
Hmm.
because they only have the knowledge of being behind the cameras. They don't have the experience that we might have. I mean, but somebody that has had the experience to be an actor and then transition into behind the cameras, that's a
Hmm.
bonus for that person.
Right.
So I think that that person, I'm not going to say is more prepared or has more knowledge. It's just it's a type of concept that that person has, and their vision is going to be a little different than somebody that's just a director.
Yeah, yeah. They have a little bit more experience in from both sides, both angles,
Absolutely.
and can be able to uh, direct better because they can kind of see how they would present it if they were the actor.
Yes, they can relate a bit
Yeah,
more
mm,
with our side. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so, outside of your writing, you got into acting. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into acting?
Well, like I said, the first time that I wrote my story, the Anhero book,
Hmm.
um, I had that same vision when I started writing it. Well, let me go a little bit. Let me rewind it a little bit.
Sure, sure,
Uh,
yeah.
I served 11 years in the U.S. Army,
Oh, thank,
and
thank you for your service, man.
I
Yeah.
appreciate the support. Yes, back in I got out in 2016,
Uh,
and after that, like I felt in a massive, crucial state of mind in that moment. I was like severely like traumatized. PTSD hit me real hard. I
mhm,
started getting very unhealthy in every aspect, not just physically, but mentally,
mhm,
emotionally. And I started having these dreams. One night I started having a specific dream. I woke up, I really didn't pay attention to it, but for 5 nights, I had the same consistent dream.
mhm,
And the dream was basically the storyline of my book. It was pretty much me um, trying to take my life, like commit suicide. And normally, like in a dream, when you get hit, when you hurt yourself, you automatically wake up from that impact.
yeah.
But in the dream, it didn't happen. Like I actually succeeded into taking my own life.
Mm,
And then I felt transported to a different location. It wasn't heaven, but it was very beautiful, that place. And that's when
yeah.
somebody else was there and they greeted me and they offered me the opportunity to transport back like a ghost,
Yeah.
transport back to earth and help people out that are going through the same thing. So my job was to be able to try to help them, convince them into not, committing suicide.
Wow.
And that fifth night when I woke up, I was like, this can't be a coincidence. Like this has to mean something. So I went ahead and I started writing it. And that's when I started getting inspired and I started adding more stuff to it. And when I officially was over, that's when I went ahead and showed it to my wife and I told her, hey, what do you think about this movie? Da 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 da. And I started telling her, and she was like, man, like, where is this movie at? Like, I've never heard something like this. And I was like, nah, it's not actually a movie. It's something that I've been writing.
Yeah.
And that's when we reached out to my aunt, and she was astonished, and she said, "This has to be a book."
Yeah.
And at while I was like getting so pumped into it and writing it, again, like I didn't want to become the main character in this story,
Mhm.
but I did include a chapter of one of the cases, him trying to help out a troubled veteran, military veteran. So I was
Okay.
like, man, I could see myself playing this role.
Right. Right.
But in order for me to be able to be in this role, like I have to start doing some kind of acting. So that's when I started considering, doing some acting. That's when I started going ahead and looking into casting calls and making my way into like playing backgrounds and playing extras just to get my feet wet, just to get to see what kind of environment this is.
Right.
And that's how it all started. Like I started doing that and I started enjoying it more and more.
Wow. That's an amazing story, man.
Thank you.
And the fact that you had that same dream for 5 nights, and it stuck with you. I, you know, I've heard of other stories of people having like out of body experiences and things of that nature, and it kind of sounds similar to what you're mentioning. However, yours was a dream, but within your dream, some of the things that you mentioned sound similar to folks
Oh
who
yeah,
have had or have had accounts of out of body experience.
absolutely. Yes,
Uh,
I do agree.
yeah. So that's amazing that you were able to take what you saw in your dream, translate it into a book or into a screenplay for film,
Right.
and that is what interested you into getting into acting and seeing, what does it take to make this happen.
To make it happen, yes. And it
Um,
wasn't easy, I'll tell you that. It wasn't easy. A lot of
right. I'm
me
sure it
me
took
being yeah, it was. And since I'm already, I'm about to hit 40 next month. And so I'm playing catch up in this industry.
no, 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 no.
Um,
There's yeah, no, there's no time frame when it comes to acting. There's a lot of actors, a lot of big name actors who didn't
I
start
agree. That's
until they
true.
were,
That's true.
well into their 40s. Like even Samuel L. Jackson, one of our most
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
famous, popular actor. Um, yeah, he didn't start until somewhere like mid 40s, something like
That's
that.
true. That's true,
Mhm.
yeah. But what I meant to say was like, for example, like every time I go to like an in-person audition,
Oh yeah,
um, it's only a handful of us that are like, in that age range, and
right.
all the rest of them, you see them, they're like in their teens or starting their 20s, and so I'm thinking to myself, these kids have a bright mind. Like when it comes to like, okay, you need to memorize these lines. Like
Hmm.
these kids are probably gonna be like, I'll read this in 5 minutes and that's it. I got it locked. Like I have to spend more time when it
Yeah.
comes to memorizing. But but I love it, man. I love it. I love the challenge. I love that urge of having to compete against them because it puts me in. I don't see them as a competition. I
Mhm.
just see them as if they can do it, why can't I? You know?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I would say this, even though they are young, and their mind is might be a little more sharper because of their age.
Right.
Um, I would say on the flip side, for somebody who is close to 40, you have where you advance is you have more experience, and you can utilize that experience and everything that you've been through, um, to channel that within your characters, whereas the younger actors haven't really experienced life yet. They're still going through that experience, so you still have a leg up there
That makes sense. Yes.
when it
It's
comes
it,
to
yeah.
experience. Yeah.
It's interesting that you say it that way because
Mhm.
um I would say maybe like 3 weeks ago, a month ago, I went to in person on an audition, and I really my personal opinion is I prefer. I used to think this way, like I would prefer doing submitting an audition
Mhm.
than to actually being face to face. It's only
Yeah.
been like maybe 3 times that I've done a face to face audition
Uh-huh.
because it looks more intimidating in that moment.
Yeah.
And this I would say like maybe last month I got invited to a face to an in-person audition, and I got the sides,
Yeah.
and I was able to like practice, go over and over this character, and the advantage that we have, or I would say I would have, is that the more I have time to rehearse, the
Hmm.
more I get into character. That
Right.
way I can be able to rehearse this person, like what is his emotion, like what is his body language, all of that. Like you have to take that all of that into account.
Hmm.
So when I get there and I see a lot of local Dallas actors here with way more experience than me, I'm thinking to myself, man, like I gotta bring my A game into this. Like I
Yeah.
had no idea that they were gonna be there. And the thing is that we were all auditioning for the same role. So I'm like, nah, there's
Yeah.
no way. There's no way. But I was the last one to show up. I was number 19.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
when when they called us in, they said, you know what? Let's go ahead and bring the last two in together, 18 and 19. So when they opened up the door and I saw who was in that room, it was Jason Mitchell from The Shy.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and I had no idea like he was gonna be there. And when I saw him like inside, I was like super excited. But at the same time, I was super nervous.
Yeah.
Um, so I went ahead. They told me, all right, sit down here in the corner. We're going to go ahead and start with number 18. So Jason started asking him, like, why do you want to be an actor? So while
Hmm.
he's talking, like, I'm not paying attention to him. I'm looking outside the glass window and trying to go over through my lines and trying to get that fresh mind. And all of a sudden he says, what about you? And I'm like, hold up, like he's asking me. So I answer the question, like the first thing that comes in my mind was like, it's more of a cultural thing. I do it because, me being Latino, we don't see a lot of Latinos here
Hmm.
in the DFW in Texas wise, unless, it's like a kind of like I would say it's like stereotype, like we're doing a movie of Narcos, we're doing a movie of Cartel,
Yeah.
something like that, then yeah, you're gonna see our faces, but I want to be more than that. I want to be able to expand more than that. And I want all the Latinos to see me and be like, man, like if Abe can do it, I could be able to do it. And he was
Absolutely.
like, man, I love it, whatever. He was real excited with my answer. And then number 18 starts running his lines. We swap. I go ahead and do it. And they tell, I really hope number 18 ain't watching this. they, they tell number 18, all right, we're going to let you know, we're going to call you back if, if we're interested. And
Hmm.
he tells me, you stay because we need to do your slate. I'm like, man,
Hmm.
all right, let's do it. So when he leaves, him and the director, they start talking to me and they ask me like, how long you been doing this? And I was like, it's like 3 years, maybe less. And he
Hmm.
was like, I love it, man. Like, we want you back. You got the part. I'm like,
Wow.
what? Like, I'm in my head, like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, not only am I gonna be able to work with James Mitchell, but I rocked it. Something that I didn't visualize into doing it in person because I kind of like underestimated myself.
Hmm.
But again, like I saw myself, if they can do it, if they get well prepared, like that's the vision that you have to have. You have to go in ready. You have to go in with an open mind and be hungry about it. You have to want it. Nobody's going to give it to you.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, man, that's another amazing story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like the way you answered it too. And you also spoke to the fact that, even though you were waiting your turn, you were number 19, you were still intimidated and a little nervous in the beginning. But when it came to your turn and your time, you turned it on and you were able to get the part. You didn't let the intimidation or the nervousness, or perhaps even the lack of confidence in that moment stop you. You
Absolutely.
pushed through your fear and you were able to land the role.
Yeah. I didn't let
Yeah,
it overcome me at all. Yes.
yeah, and that's what it's all about, man. Okay, so um, outside of that, have you had any formal training for acting, or was this something that you just kind of picked up and began practicing on your own until you got to where you are today?
I would say when I started considering acting overall,
Hmm.
um, I signed up for what we call is kind of like a I would say like an audition showcase. It's a group that they actually help you and they prepare you into auditioning, and
Uh,
then they bring you into a room full of agents, full of managers, and you get to audition in front of them. And if they like what they see, they call you back.
mhm.
And I actually met Daytwan in this group.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
the first time that we actually met. And again, like I saw him like super young and super, energetic. And I was like, man, like I didn't see him as like, man, I'm hating on him. Like, nah, like I saw this, like, man, like this is a
Motivation.
sort of like motivation. There you go. And we started, we clicked. We clicked super well.
Mhm,
We started a friendship, and we started helping one another. We started rehearsing together.
mhm.
They actually took us to Warner Brothers Studios out of LA. We got
Wow.
to do our showcase over there.
Mm.
Um, it was it was hosted by what's her name? Maria Luisa Civitelli and
Okay.
Jimmy Chamarios. These two are they're Canadian. Jimmy Chamarios, he's an actor,
Uh-huh.
but they were the ones like holding our hands and getting us ready to that event.
Right.
And they helped us. We got to do a lot of auditioning courses as well with them. We did our thing over there. A lot of the callbacks that I got personally, they wanted me to move to California. They wouldn't represent me here in Texas.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, obviously I couldn't. But there was one manager that once he found out that I was a veteran, he was like, you know what, I could work with you because I do have representation over there and connections in Texas,
Mhm.
and I do a lot of work with veterans. So I went ahead and signed with him, and then when I came back, I started having an acting coach. His name is Ricky Montez. He's over there in LA as well.
Mhm.
Super cool people, and he was super helpful as far as like submitting auditions. He helped me out a lot. And after that, I just started taking online courses. I started signing up into like module courses,
Mhm.
and one of the module courses was with Samuel Jackson through the master class,
Yeah.
and he's one of my favorite actors.
Yes.
And learning it from him, like I learned so much. There was so much concept when it has to do with auditioning, when it has to do with showing up, on set. It was amazing. It was super helpful. And what I love about it is that something that I already had in my mind, and he confirmed it, was that he says you got to use physical characteristics to make your character different.
Mhm.
Meaning to me, like if I'm playing one role and I could be able to play with my physical characteristics, meaning like, I could change the way my facial hair looks. I could change the color of my eyes, my hair, my
Mhm.
swag. It's gonna look completely different to another character that I'm playing.
Mhm.
So when they see Abe Lopez playing this movie, like it's gonna be completely different when they see Abe Lopez on this other movie. So I think that opens up a lot of more range and a lot more opportunities. And when it comes to casting, they're gonna remember that, like, oh, I remember Abe. Like he played this well, or he played this, or he can. I don't want them to see me as the same person, always looking the same, always acting the same. So
Right.
that's something that I really take under consideration, and I really enjoyed learning from Samuel Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to find what works for you in order to be able to transform into that character, and if that is, any type of physical alteration, to where it helps helps bring you into that realm or that aspect of who that character is,
Yes,
whether you're good or you're a villain, protagonist, antagonist, how are you perceived? A lot of times your appearance helps with that,
definitely.
and then once you're in that mode and you can actually see your appearance as being different and you're able to bring that out of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so you're currently in the film Distinguished Robbers and you play Julio. Can you tell me a little bit about who Julio is in the film and what the film is about.
Absolutely, Julio, man. I played Julio Ortega.
Mhm.
Um, Julio was sent to the U.S. His parents sent him when he was a teenager, I guess for a better life, for better opportunities. And yeah, Puerto Rico, the main language is Spanish, but obviously we get to still talk English. So he wasn't
Right.
completely uh, just a Spanish speaker.
Hmm.
He grew up. He continued his life in the U.S. as a teenager, but he was sent to his aunt and uncle's house, hoping that he can, better his life. But his
Hmm.
aunt and uncle really weren't that helpful with him, so he was just trying to make it on his own. And one day he's getting his butt kicked by a group of black kids in a park, and that's when the opulent brothers they find him, and they save pretty much his life in that moment. Um, from that moment on, they created a bond, they created a brotherhood, and it was inseparable. They Julio became one of the opulents in that moment,
Right.
and the opulent parents as well. They welcomed him. They welcomed him as one of his own. So from that moment on, that's when they all grow up and they all become professional businessmen.
Hmm.
And in that moment when Julio is already an adult, he has his family. I don't want to spoil it too much, but he goes. One of his kids gets into a medical situation that it finds him kind of trapped economically.
Right.
So they all have to make a drastic decision and come to a plan. And how is it that we're going to be able to afford in paying for these medical bills and helping mom and pops
Hmm.
and not getting evicted and all of these situations that all of us, each and all of the opulent brothers have. How is it that we're going to go ahead and execute? So that's when we went ahead and made the decision of robbing banks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you definitely got to do what you got to do when your back's against the wall, man.
Right.
But for the folks watching, stay on the legal side, man.
Most definite.
um, okay, so you've also been in other films, Thicker the Berry, Sweeter the Juice, and No Better Love. If you don't mind, if you could talk a little bit about both of those projects.
Yeah, No Better Love was my first role. Like I said, I started doing background and extras, and when I
Mhm.
saw this casting call for No Better Love, it was for that to play the head of security for a high school, and the ethnicity that they were requesting was Caucasian. And I was like, you know what, whatever. Like, I'll go ahead and submit it, see what happens,
You never know.
because you never know exactly. So you never know, and it was a supporting role, but I still went ahead and submitted it, and I got a call back to go ahead, and it was an in-person audition. The same thing that I did on the self-tape, they wanted me to do it in front of them.
Hmm.
So I went ahead and I showed up and I did the audition, but I did terrible. Like I had memorized everything during the self-tape and I'm rehearsing on my way. But like I said, this was my first time ever doing it in person. Not because it's not the same as doing a showcase in front of a group of managers and agents where I had months to prepare.
Yeah.
So I didn't really continue to rehearse this character's lines other than the self tape. So when I
Hmm.
went there, I don't know why, like the nervousness took over and
Yeah.
I started getting blank and I just started like improvising some of the lines. And when I left, I texted the casting crew and I told them, I was like, listen, I'm sorry. Like I know I didn't bring 100%, but I was just nervous. And they replied like, don't worry about it. Like, don't sweat it. You did great. I'm like, okay. And
Yeah.
then I got another call back offering me the job, offering me I booked it. And they changed obviously his character into being a Hispanic. So it fit
Yeah.
well. And I played a head of security. The movie No Better Love is based out of I guess it would say a love triangle
Hmm.
between a high school senior. She goes by the name of Baby. And she gets kind of like an entanglement
Hmm.
between a drug dealer boyfriend and one of the security guards in the high school. So
Yeah.
you see me in the movie kind of like breaking up fights and breaking up discussions and like that, but it was fun. It was a good time. Like the whole crew, the whole cast was amazing. Like it was a very good experience for me to actually be like I could do this more, not just stay in the background, not just stay as an extra. So from that moment on, I went ahead and continued to book for supporting roles and for lead roles. So it
Yeah.
was fun.
Yeah. At that point, it hooked you in, man. It
It
got you.
did. Absolutely, it did. And then
Yeah.
for Thick of the Berry, it was I was shooting a movie in Tyler with Damian King. He's Kendra's husband,
Okay.
and I was shooting a movie over there, and he liked my performance, and he
Hmm.
came up to me and he was like, you know what, like I think you should go ahead and audition for my wife's next movie, Thick of the Berry. I'm like, oh, for real? Yeah, man, you should audition to be the Arabic gas station manager. I'm like, Arabic? Like, come on, man. Like, there's no way I'm gonna pull this off. And he's like, what's the worst that can happen, man? So I was like, you know what, whatever, man. Like I've been overseas. I've been able to be among these people, but I've
Right.
never been able to like talk
Play
like
it.
them, act like
Portray
yeah,
it. Right.
exactly. So, they sent me the sides and I started doing a lot of research on Arabics. I started looking at interviews and their
Hmm.
body language and their accent and the way that they dress. So I was like, you know what, whatever. Like I'll go ahead and do it. I got the lines down and I submitted it and and I got a call back. And they told me that, yeah, like you did great. And,
Yeah.
and again, like it was an experience completely different, and I thank them because they pushed me out of my comfort zone. Because
Right.
in that moment, I'm just thinking like I'm gonna just submit for things that fit on me. Like I'm Hispanic, in my age range, but there's
Hmm.
so much to it. Like you have to get out of that comfort zone. You have to dare yourself into submitting into different roles, into different things that you're not absolutely comfortable with, because you can get it. You can surprise yourself. And
Yeah.
that's what happened. I did it. And I went ahead and I did that role. It was super fun again. Like it was kind of funny, and it helped me a lot because the gas station that we were shooting in, the real the real cash register person was Arabic. He was right there with us. So every time a real customer would come in, I would have to step aside. He would come in.
Yeah.
And it was what the good thing about it is that in the movie, I actually improvised a phrase in Arabic.
Yeah.
And it was thanks to him because I was like, hey, man, come here. Like, I want to be able to say this, like
Right.
in your language, without disrespecting him. And he was
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, you could just say boom. And he told me this. And I started going with him, rehearsing over and over. And then in the movie, you see that at the very end, when I'm having a conversation with Montreal Diggs, that he was the one that I did the scene with,
Hmm.
I went ahead and said that Arabic phrase, kind of like it was funny to him and it was funny to all of us, but I enjoyed it. It was and again, you have to push yourself to that.
Yeah.
And I always took that in consideration what Samuel Jackson taught in that class. Like you have to use different characteristics, not
Yeah.
just physically, but also like in that moment, I used a different accent. I used, and not only did I use that accent, but I went ahead and snuck a little bit of their language in there as well.
Right.
So
And
that
that's
helped a lot.
yeah, and that's showing respect and honoring their culture. So
Absolutely.
it's awesome that you pulled them to the side and said, "Hey, how do I say this in Arabic?" And the fact that they actually had the clerk. He was there. He wasn't in
Yeah,
the film, but he was there, and he was able to see how you were able to portray him or somebody like him in their
yeah,
culture without being disrespectful, and making it all make sense.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've learned as an actor, I didn't know this in the very beginning, but when you when you're running some lines, you
Hmm.
don't ask for approval. Like you don't ask, how did I do? Like, did I do
Yeah.
good? Like, what was that? If they don't bother you, if they don't correct you, you're doing a great job.
Yes.
And in that moment, like I would go ahead and perform my scenes and I would see them looking like it was him and his wife. So they were both looking and I'm like, man, like they gonna tear me up when I finish. But I kept my mouth shut, like, and after before I left the gas station, they pulled me aside and they were like, you know what? Thank you because you didn't overdo it, you
Right.
didn't slack on it, and you did it very similar to our culture. And that
Hmm.
to me was amazing. Like I felt honored and again, like I felt like, okay, it was something completely different, but I did my job and they approved it. Like it's not the same it coming from a casting crew or from the director and they were like, hey, you did a good job. Because they, they're not in that culture, but somebody within that culture to actually congratulate you or to thank you or to approve it, like that was something else.
Right. Absolutely. And that's when you know you're on track with how you should be, representing them in their culture, and not
Yes,
not being disrespectful or making fun of or anything like that.
yes,
Uh,
absolutely,
it's true to their culture and how it's supposed to be.
definitely.
Yeah. So you also know my guys, Daytwan Williams. You mentioned him earlier,
Yeah.
and Tyrone Betters.
Oh yeah, man, Tyrone. Like, we did No Better Love together,
Hmm.
but I wasn't able to shoot in the same scene with him.
Okay.
Uh, Even though that was my first movie, and I was still getting acquainted with like familiar faces here in Texas when it comes to like local actors here in Texas. When I saw him perform in the movie, like I was like, man, like I've seen him before.
Yeah.
And I saw Cornelius Lewis as well, and I saw a lot of these big names that were in that movie.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, like I wasn't able to go ahead and shoot with them, but it was amazing. And I've been ever since, like I've been wanting to go ahead and book a movie with Tyrone. After that, like I did work with Daytwan, as I mentioned before. Like we met each other in the showcase, and we
Right.
got the opportunity to shoot in with this in Distinguished Robbers,
Hmm.
and we already booked something else together. And with Tyrone, like again, I don't think I'm gonna be able to shoot with him at the same scene, but we are gonna come out in a couple more movies, future projects that we got lined up. We're gonna
Okay.
be able to show it together. But it's like we told each other, this industry is not big,
Right.
so we're definitely gonna go ahead and bump heads and be able to work together somehow, some way.
Yeah. Let's make it happen, man. And
Absolutely,
we're speaking it to God's ears. It's gonna happen, bro.
yeah, absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay. So outside of acting, you're an entrepreneur as well. If you don't mind, I see you have the hat, and salute to your brand, man. Uh,
Thank you.
Latino Ave. Can you talk a little bit about your brand and where you see it going?
Oof. Latino Avenue, man. This was something that came into my head back in 2021.
Hmm.
I was raised in the Bronx, and the neighborhood that I was raised in and we grew up, it was mainly populated by either blacks and Hispanics. Like it was very little white people.
Yeah.
And during the summer, they would close down the streets in front of our projects, in front of our buildings, and it was called a play street. So the kids would go downstairs and they'll have everything to play with. Like they would put basketball hoops, they'll put um, they'll open up the sewers so kids can get wet. And it
Yeah.
was mainly, just blacks and Hispanics in that play street. And I always stuck with that. I always loved that kind of environment. Not to hate on any other race, obviously. It was just it was comfortable.
Right.
And then when I grew up back in 2021, I was watching when President Biden he won president, and he had J Lo perform. She started singing a couple of the songs, and she was singing "This Land Is Your Land." And in that moment, she started reciting a part of the song in Spanish. She just started reading it in Spanish,
Hmm.
and I don't know why. Like in that moment, I went back through memory lane, And I started remembering my childhood, and I started remembering that avenue that I grew up, that it was full of Latinos, and it
Yeah.
just clicked right there. Like as soon as she started reading that or saying that part in Spanish, it just popped in my head. I was like, man, Latino Avenue, like that would have been amazing. And it just stuck. I was like, man, like
Yeah.
Latino Avenue sounds catchy.
Yeah.
And that's when I started getting to work. Like I was like, I could see this being something, not just not just a phrase. I could picture it,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
I started working on it on 2021, and on September 2023, that's when I went ahead and released it officially. And
Okay.
yeah, I
So
started off with just T-shirts,
this is brand
and
new.
it is.
Yeah.
It's not. It hasn't been in the market for a long period of time. This was
Wow.
back in September last year, and again, like I started with clothing.
Mhm.
Um, I don't have every piece of the apparel, but that's my vision. Like I want to be able to not only expand it to clothing, like I want it to be global. And I created the slogan Concordia Mundial, which is translated as worldwide concord, which is worldwide unity.
Mhm.
Because Latino Avenue to me is not just one flag, it's not just
Right.
one ethnicity as far as like just Mexicans or just Puerto Ricans. Like no, like every Latino
Right.
can go ahead and represent this. And I've
Yes.
had people all over the U.S., all over the Caribbean, all over the South America to reach out and send me DMs and be like, "Hey, like I love your brand. I love what you're doing with Latinos, even
Mhm.
Black people. Like they be reaching out and they be like, listen, man, I know I'm not Black. I mean, I know I'm not Latino, but
Right.
can I go
Still,
ahead and rep?
still respect.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And that to me is just surreal. Like I love that, and I want to go ahead and be able to not only as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, but as an actor, I want to go ahead and be able to expose my brand more. And in
Mhm.
Distinguished Robbers, one of the last scenes that we're in, you see me, I'm rocking a Latino Avenue hoodie,
Yeah.
and I appreciate Kendra for letting me rock that because she was like, you know what, as soon as we go ahead and do the next movie, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to rep your brand
Right.
because nobody's gonna represent your brand better than you. Nobody's gonna advertise it. Nobody's gonna sell it better than you. So I appreciate that from her, and I'm just going ahead and take advantage of it. I just eyes closed and just going full blast. I have the green light, so I see Latino Avenue blowing up.
Yeah. Most definitely, man. And um, to your point, there's a wealth of people all across the world who would love and would love to support it,
Yes,
and be able to support the Latino culture, the Latin culture, and showcase how proud they are to be Latin, no matter where they are in the
absolutely,
world, Latin and Hispanic. Um,
definitely, most
yeah.
definitely.
Okay, so as a Latino actor, how important is it for you to see more representation in TV and film?
Oh man, that's monumental. That's not only me, but just to see more Latinos represent themselves in TV and films. That's huge because here in Texas, you go on Tubi and more than 50% of the movies is is a lot of African Americans,
Right.
but there's not a lot of Hispanics.
Hmm.
And when you go ahead and look for local actors here in Dallas or in Fort Worth or in Texas itself or in Houston especially, a lot of the big names, a lot of the popular names are African Americans, and that's amazing. I mean, I love it.
Hmm.
I just wish to be able to see more of the Latinos as well,
Right.
and that's why I see myself like I want to be able to expose myself more and promote myself more and be featured in more movies and more projects, not only here in Texas, but anywhere I can go, be able to travel to. That way, when they see, this specific actor, Hispanic actor, it's like, oh, like I've seen him here. I seen them there. That's why I always try to visualize like if if I could be able to show myself behind the cameras
Hmm.
and make my people proud and make my people think like, man, like I was thinking about doing it. I just I wouldn't dare or I don't know about it. I'm kind of like feeling having some kind of doubts.
Hmm.
I want them to be able to dare themselves and to push themselves into doing it. That way we can be able to expose and represent our culture more and more because there are a lot of talents that
Right.
they don't have that courage, I would say, to do it.
Yeah.
But if they do it, I know that they'll be able to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge market, um, not just for black, but black and brown, the whole entire black and brown community. Period. There's a
Definitely.
huge market for all of us. There's a production company that I am uh, partially involved with. They're on the West Coast in LA, named South Bay Talent Group. Um,
South
and
Bay. Okay.
yeah, and they do a lot of black and brown films. A lot of their films involve a lot of black and brown talent,
Nice.
and they pride themselves with bringing black and brown together, on
That's amazing.
for TV and film. And so a lot of their projects involve a lot of black and brown actors, from mainly from LA, but now they're venturing out and starting to film across the country. And they have a new film that they're going to be filming in Atlanta. Um, I think within like the next week or two, called Touch, and I was involved with helping with the casting there.
Oh
So
wow.
that could also be an avenue that you can take, and potentially they, I can reach out to them and say, hey, I know a good brother from Texas. Um, he's Latino and he would love to be in some of your projects. You can always put
What?
in a word, you know what I'm saying? So
That would be
um,
amazing, man. That's awesome. You say that, and it comes to my mind because there's a Hispanic actor in San Antonio that I shot a movie with him in Houston. JJ Fernandez,
okay,
and he and I when we were on set in Houston, we met for the first time there, and we immediately clicked as well. Like we knew how to actually work together without even spending any time
right,
together. And
right,
ever since that project, we've always been keeping in touch. We've always helped each other as far as like, hey, there's a project for this, there's a project for that,
yeah,
and we keep each other on the loop. And he reached out to me not too long ago. He was like, you know what, man, I've been thinking about it, and I started writing a script of just a Latino movie, a
mhm.
Latino comedy movie, and I think you and I should put this project together and make it happen.
You should, you really
We
should,
we that's absolutely, and that's something that you know it's gonna actually put our not our names but our culture out there way more, and and that's what that's the whole purpose
mm,
of like you said of how important it is for us to be able to be more on the film in the film industry in the movie industry.
right,
So
right.
we're definitely gonna be working with this project.
Yeah, and not only that, it also helps to where you're not necessarily always typecast in a certain role, a certain type of role. You can create the
Yes,
roles that you want to see yourself in, when you're creating the movies yourself.
absolutely.
So you can give a different perspective of, the Latin and Hispanic culture, and some of the things that you guys go through and things that you relate on as it pertains to
Yes,
your culture, and be able to showcase that, in TV and film. Whereas there's not a lot of directors, writers, actors able to do that. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely. That's
um,
yes. It's gonna be more believable. It'll be more genuine, coming
mhm,
straight up from that culture. Yes, I agree.
yeah, for sure, man. So, to a perfect segue is, what are some of the types of roles that you are looking to be casted as?
I would love to get casted as to play a boxer. I did amateur boxing when I was in the army.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I've done a couple of small commercials or like small reels, I would say,
Uh-huh.
involving myself, working out and involving boxing. But I've always, that's my favorite sport.
Yeah,
Um,
I love boxing too.
yeah, definitely. And it keeps me, staying in shape. It keeps me, staying active.
Mhm.
But yeah, I could actually see myself portraying that kind of role. And most definitely, I would love to play sometime, someday, the role of a military soldier. Not only because me, I think it'll help more that I have already the knowledge.
Yes.
I see a lot of movies that involve military and they're just sad. Like me being a veteran myself, like I see it, and I know that a lot of us veterans we feel the same way. We see a lot of military movies and we're like, come on, that's
Right.
not real. But I would love to actually portray those two roles.
Yeah.
That's in my head.
Absolutely. And here's another thing that you might want to consider somewhere in your career path.
Right,
Because I know of another military veteran. He's a former Navy SEAL. Um, and he was on World's Toughest Test on Fox. Um, I'm drawing a blank right now. Remy Adeleke is his name.
Remy.
Um, good brother. He was a former U.S. Navy SEAL, and as he was still participating in the service, he started to land roles as a consultant for different movies to be able to provide the correct information that is
Oh
needed.
wow.
Yeah, that's needed and that makes sense as it pertains to being in the military and being in that particular field as a Navy SEAL. So that way, the director and everybody else
Mm,
get it right. You know what I'm saying? Um,
absolutely.
so, so if you can always get hired on as a consultant or present yourself as a consultant
Right.
also to be able to provide some of that knowledge and information so that way when people are watching the movie the ones that we love are the ones that are true and authentic, and that's the
Yeah.
reason why we love it, because when you watch it it's like damn, it's like
It's
I'm
real.
right back into the service, it's like you're
Yes.
you know um, so that's definitely a good path to take. I don't know if you've ever thought about that or considered that, but uh,
Not at all. No, and it's weird and it's curious because I've been in movies where we have to use some kind of weapon,
right,
and a lot of the people that are on the side, they're either off-duty cops or they're
right,
retired law enforcement, and they're there to actually help the people that have never
right,
used some kind of weapon. So it
yeah,
makes sense, obviously, to be a consultant in that specific field.
yeah,
So yeah, so it can look more realistic. So yeah,
absolutely,
that's
yeah,
definitely something that to look into.
yeah, and it just gives you a wider range as to what your role can be in a film. You might not necessarily land a role as an actor,
Right.
but you can potentially land a role as a consultant behind the scenes, and you can get involved in a lot more projects that way. So when
Absolutely.
in between your acting career, you can also be doing some of these other projects. And Remy, like I said, he was on World's Toughest Test. As a reality show where they push a lot of former reality stars or child stars
Right.
in various
Obstacles.
entertainment, yeah, but various different entertainment ranges.
Okay.
But yes, they push them as it pertains to what it would be like if they were actually a U.S. Navy SEAL.
Wow.
Uh, and so yeah, he did that. But he's worked with Michael Bay, as far
Oh
as
man.
being able to consult on like weaponry and what you would do with
Right.
certain tactical things. He's done Transformers. He's done Six Underground with
Ooh,
what's I forget his name, but the guy who plays Deadpool, Ryan
Ryan
Ryan,
Reynolds.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so that's definitely a path you should
Absolutely.
consider also. But okay, so what is your overall goal in this industry? I know you've done some independent films, but where do you see yourself going or gravitating towards as you progress in your career?
Oh, honestly, I'm taking it right now, one step at a time.
Mhm.
As far as like, yeah, like I would want to, like I told you earlier, like I want to be able to grow. I want to be able to expand my brand, my name out there, not only as Abe Lopez, the actor, but also Latino Avenue, as
Yeah.
far as my books, as far as even modeling. Because before I started acting, I did a little bit of modeling, and
Mm,
because when I told you when I was recently out of the military and I got out of shape in every sense of the word, that's when after I wrote my story and I wrote my book, I started getting back into shape, not only physically but emotionally and mentally.
mhm.
And that's when I started modeling because I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and do a photo shoot before. I don't know when's the next time I don't know how long I'm gonna keep, this physique. So I went ahead and did my first photo shoot, and the photographer, he was like, "How long you been doing this?" I was like, "Bro, like this is my first time." And he's
Yeah.
like you're a natural. Like you should definitely keep doing this. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's go ahead and do it. And I kept on, reaching out to photographers, and till this day, there are a lot of photographers that stay in touch with me, and
Mhm.
um, I really want to, thank them because they believed in me. Just like when it comes to acting, they believed in me, and the same way that a lot of photographers reach out to me, and they be like, "I want to do this shoot," and I think of you. That's the same way that I want, a casting crew or other actors to remember me as. Like, I remember you from this movie. I
Yeah.
want you to help me out in this. And so yeah, like yeah, as far as like going, like visualizing myself going to like Hollywood level, it would be nice, I guess, but I'm not thinking there as far as like, yeah, I want that kind of fame. I want that kind of acting level. Like you could be here, like you could be a straight up non-union actor and blow up and be known, well known as
Right.
far as that industry. So yeah, I think if I would have to choose like what overall goal I want right now, like
Mhm.
yeah, I want to be able to be a well known actor, non-union actor, I would say, independent level, I would say, being able to show my name as Abe Lopez, the Puerto Rican actor. I would be able to help out other young actors or young older. It don't matter what age. As far as like he's Latino, like I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's my vision.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, Abe, let me ask you, what is next for you as it pertains to these independent films? Do you have any projects that you can speak on that's next?
Yeah, man. I'm about to fly out to Atlanta in a couple weeks. Um, shoot a movie with Brandon Lee. He's the director, and
Yeah.
he's titled. I mean, I'm saying all this because I know that he's big on promoting it already.
Right.
So it's not a secret. It's titled Fatal,
Hmm.
and shout out to Kendra again. She put a good word for me,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of us here in Texas that are going to be participating in that movie. Tyrone Betters, he's going to be on it. Montreal Diggs,
Yeah.
JJ Fernandez, like I told you. A lot of people from here, from Texas, we're going to be able to go over there to ATL. So I got that one lined up. When I get back, I'm going to be shooting Deeper, which is the sequel for Knee Deep.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna be able to shoot with my man. What's his name? Let me
Jamarcus.
Jamarcus, man. Yes, man.
Yeah.
He's a super cool dude. And not too long ago, like we got the same barber. Like his
Oh,
his
wow.
um his cousin is his barber, and he was like, he was in the Air Force, right? And I was like, no way. Like I didn't even know he was. Jamarcus had served in the Air Force. So I
Yeah.
guess that I wouldn't say that coincidence, but as soon as we met each other again, like it was a very nice vibe that we had,
Right.
and yeah, like I'm super excited. He's also gonna be in Atlanta shooting with Fade with Brandon Lee, so I'm
Right.
super excited for that one.
It's all of
Um,
y'all. Yeah.
it is, man, it is, and it's little by little, we're getting our name exposed. And
Right.
I haven't even shot with Brandon Lee. And later on, when I got the the role booked, I found out that for his next movie, Black Narcos, he already had booked me. Like he
Oh,
wanted me to actually be on it with JJ Fernandez as, we're gonna be brothers in this movie. So
okay.
again,
Okay.
like man, I'm just taking advantage of everything, and I'm
Right.
super grateful, first of all to God and to everybody that's, you know, giving me a hand and putting a good word in for me because I believe that my work speaks for itself. I'm not trying to be arrogant or conceited or anything, but I'm actually happy and I'm super humbled that I could be able to perform
Mhm.
and be able to let other people know, like, man, I like how he acts, I like his vibe, I like his attitude.
Right.
And that's gonna actually open up a lot more doors.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, Abe, I like to give my guests the final word, whether it be a piece of advice, words of encouragement, or a quote that you like to live by.
Mm.
You can either say all three or you can give one. It's up to you.
Uh, I always stick to the same one, which is never give up on your dream, man. Never quit, never give up. I believe that the day that you quit will be the day that you lose.
Yeah.
And when you quit, that person that's right behind you, next in line, that person is gonna be more hungry and more determined, and they're gonna get the win. So you never know. Like a door can shut in your face today, a door can shut back again tomorrow, but eventually there's gonna be a door that is gonna open up and it's gonna give you that shot. It's gonna give you that opportunity. And that's all you need. All you need is one shot
Mhm.
to be able to perform, to present yourself, to show them what you got, and that door is gonna lead to other doors.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. Man, well, thank you so much for your time, for
Yeah,
your
man.
your
Thank you so
knowledge,
much
your
for having me, Kevin.
expertise. Yeah, no, I love the stories that you were able to tell. I was, really, really happy to have you on, to be able to, let people know who you are, and for us to be able to provide, the 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 little bit of spotlight that we can provide now. But I know that you have a bright future. You're going to continue on in your career and your path with your acting, your writing your books, and also your brand Latino Avenue. So yeah, I wish you much success, and yeah, man, thank
Thank
you
you,
for
man. Thank you, man. And thank you, cause uh, I love the black script. I love what you're doing, man. It's like I told you before we started. Like you are interviewing like heavy hitters, and for me to be able to be included in your interviews, it means a lot to me, and I'm super grateful. And me being able to be the first solo Latino interview in your podcast, like this is huge for me, man. This is hopefully it's the first of many.
yeah, yeah,
Even though
yeah,
I'm Latino, I'm Puerto Rican, but there's black in me as well.
bro,
Like we come from black, we come
yeah,
from Indians, so it's a blessing, man.
yeah, absolutely. I would say this. So it's called the Black Script, but it's Black centric, but we represent all the underrepresented.
That's
And
amazing, man.
I haven't really expounded on it, but like even with my logo, it says black
Right.
first, but the underscore on this side, the underscore stands for the underrepresented. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So that's what that is about. That's why I kept it there. But it's also, as you're typing in the script, the cursor is blinking. But
Okay.
I thought that the underline or the underscore also helps represent the rest of our community, which is the underrepresented. There's a lot of us
Absolutely.
that are underrepresented, and so a part of what the Black Script wants to do is provide light and give flowers to those who are within our community, and be able to showcase what it is that we do, who we are, and you don't have a lengthy career and nobody knows who you are, but everybody's familiar with your face. You know
That's
what I mean?
amazing, man. That's
Yeah.
that hits the target.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, it's hitting the like what we call the minorities, but truthfully, we're not. Like we're no longer the minorities.
Yes, we we are no longer the minority, and that's
Exactly.
that's what we all have to realize in order to move forward, is that w- there's strength in numbers, and we have the numbers. We're powerful together as a people if we
Definitely.
unite, and we, showcase that this is what it is, and this is what we want to do moving
Exactly.
forward. Everybody else has to fall in line. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
it's just a matter of time. I think we're getting to that shift where, we're starting to see more independent projects come. We're starting to see more independent pathways into the business,
Yeah.
um, and the knowledge is starting to spread. So we're not left in the dark as to how to do this, how to go about getting into this industry, and that's another
Absolutely.
part of what we do here with the Black Script. That's why we have these interviews, to be able to tell these stories and talk about your journey and your path. And maybe it might help inspire, but not only that, it might also shine light on something that maybe the next aspiring actor might not have thought about, as to
Absolutely.
how to pursue. So
Definitely. Most
um,
definitely. Yep.
yeah, at the end of the day, man, it's all about coming together, uniting, sharing that information, and reaching back and lifting each other up. You know what I'm saying? So that's what
That's
we're
real.
doing. Yeah, yeah. So without further ado, Abe Lopez, everybody.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time.